Hello soulmates, you're welcome to another tutorial. Now we are going to be recreating the picture on the thumbnail. This is the one I've made for my client. She's a bust of 42 inches. Now please don't mind my voice. I've been having cold, cough and all of that, so I'm going to be screaming so you guys can hear me. Now we are going to start with this basic bodice pattern. I'm going to start with basic bodice pattern then before all the alteration. Now the first line there is 1.5 inches. I'm going to be rolling. Now this 1.5 inches is for our shoulder line. After that, I went down to roll my front line. That would be my front line, and I'm also going to roll the back line. Now I'm going to share the biggest part of our body because this is a half scale block. Now the biggest part is the bust. Since our bust is 42 divided by 2 is 21, I added 2 inches to it, so what I roll is 3 inches. We're just trying to get the size of our paper. Then I also roll the line. So we have our shoulder line, that's the shoulder slant line of 1.5 inches. Then we have the front line and we have the back line. After that, guys, I'm going to just share this into 2 with a line that would also indicate the front and the back. It is actually optional because sometimes a measurement can extend into another measurement. So I'm just rolling this for you guys to see. Then the next line I'm going to be rolling is the waist length. Now the waist length is, I started it from the paper, from the edge of the paper, not from the shoulder line. Then I roll it into the front. So we have the front waist length and the back waist length. After that, I'm going to be rolling the breast point of 10.5 inches from the starting line of the paper. And I'm going to square it up into the front and the back. I will label the pattern as the breast point, waist length for front and back, then breast point for also back. Then the next line we'll get is going to be our under bust line. So for this client, I'm using 14.5 for our under bust. Then I'm also going to roll the line. Now this under bust, I did not extend it to the back because the back does not really, need that under bust line. Now guys, can you see where my hand is touching from this shoulder line? I went down by 8.5 inches. That is the chest line for this client. Now sometimes how you can get your chest line is when you go from your breast point by 1 inches or 1.25. That is how to get your chest line. But for this client, our armhole is very big. That's why I went up by 0.75 from the chest line. So we have our chest line for both front and back. Now guys, we're going to be putting the round the neck width and the neck depth. So on this shoulder line, I put 3 inches and I went up by 1 inch. We have 1.5 inches. So I went up by 1 inch. So we have ½ inch left. Now I'm going to place my tape from that starting line and I'll place it in a way that the shoulder line touches 7 inches. Now this is standard for back measurements. Then I mark a shoulder measurement of 8.5, and I added ½ inch for the shoulder darts for the back. Then I'm going to roll from that 1 inch to touch the 7 and the 8.5 plus the shoulder dart of ½ inch. Now that 7 inches it intercepts at is standard for the back. So I divide what I have in between the shoulder line and the chest line by 2. So what I have there, I divided by 2, and I'm going to roll the line. After rolling, then I went ahead to put the across chest measurement for the back. That's 15.5 divided by 2 is 7.75. After that, I now put the round bust measurement on the chest line. Then I'm going to be connecting the 3 points together. The round bust is 10.5. I also put the 7.75 on the chest line so I can get a straight line. So we're going to connect the 3 points together like that, and like that. So I take my curve ruler and I connect to that point, and I also connect to the chest line, to the round bust measurement on the chest line. After that, guys, we are done forming the back armhole. Now let's go to the front armhole. So guys, we are going to put the neck width and the neck depth of 3 by 3. Yeah, 3 inches for the depth and 3 inches for the width. Now I'm just going to square up the line, because for every square you have to get a circle. So this is me squaring it up, and I'm going to mark. So for you to get a proper curve, I'm going to take in 1.2 inches. Yeah, then I'll place my ruler on the neck width and the 1.2 and the 3 inches. That's for you to just get a round, neck. Sorry guys. After that, I'm going to be putting our shoulder measurements. Now this client is 17 inches divided by 2, we have 8.5. Now for the shoulder dart, I'm going to add 3 inches to that 8.5. Now look at the way I place my tape. I'm going to place my tape that way, and I'm going to make sure it intercepts on the shoulder line by the 8.5. Can you see it? So after I indicated the 8.5, I now added the 3 inches for the shoulder dart. So everything is now giving me 11.5. That was why I said we don't need to rule that line of sharing the paper into 2, because some measurements can fall into the other line. So I'm going to place my ruler starting from the neck width, and I'm going to rule it touching the 11.5 inches. I hope you understand. Now to get our darts, I'm going to share what we have left from this neck width, from the 1 inch to the actual shoulder measurement of the back. Then I will share it into 2. After sharing into 2, I'll measure what I have there. What I have is 0.75 on both sides. Yeah, that is excluding the ½ inch darts of the back. So I'm going to put 1, that's 0.75 from this shoulder measurement of the front, and from the neck width I'm going to indicate the second 2.75. so what I should have in between those two lines that I mark should be 3 inches. Now you have to check it all over again. If it is not up to 3 inches that you added to the shoulder, then your measurement is not correct. You have to retake it. So whatever you have in between there should be 3 inches. So guys, for our nipple to nipple measurements, I'm going to put it on the breast point. Now this is me measuring it. I normally use round bust divided by 8 minus 0.75. So whatever it gives me is what I will put. Now for this person, it gave me 4.75. So I also put it from the breast point all the way to the waist length. Then I connect the line by ruling it. So guys, the 3 inches that I'm going to be connecting it to the breast point. So I'll mark from the first line, then I'll also mark the second line. So we have our shoulder that's ready. After that, guys, we are going to be forming the armhole. Now for the chest line, I went up by 2 inches on the front. It is standard. You know, the back, I divided from the shoulder line to the chest line by 2 to get our across chest for the back. But for the front, to get your across chest line, you have to go up from your chest line by 2 inches. Then I rule the line, and I'm going to be putting the across chest measurement for the front. Now what I have there is the same thing as the back, 15 inches, 15.5 divided by 2. Then I replace the darts there. I replaced it, because if you did not replace it, your measurements will get short. After that, I'm going to rule the line from the shoulder line there to the across chest measurement of the front, then also extend it to the chest line. Now I'm just going to measure it all over again on the chest line, 7.75, and I would replace the dart there. Don't mind me ruling it first. I checked again and I replaced that dart there. Yeah, can you see? I replaced it. Then I went ahead to rule it all over again. After ruling it, now on the chest line, I'm now going to put the round bust measurement +1. Standard, guys, for everybody. The round bust is 10.5 +1, that is 11.5. So you always put +1 because of our darts, shoulder darts that are extended to the breast point. So even if what you are seeing there is not up to 1, it is standard, just put 1 inches. So let's connect the 3 lines, the 3 dotted lines together. Now place your curve ruler from the shoulder slant to the across chest. Now when you place it, you are going to go in by some inches. That is if you want to get a good curve. Now another way to do that is to divide it by 2 and you go out by 0.25. So it is still the same thing. Then you now use your curve ruler from the across chest line of the front to the measurements that we have on the chest line. That's your round bust measurement +1 inch. So that way we have a good curve for our armhole. Now I'm just going to go around with my tape and check if my armhole is correct. So for this client, our armhole is 19 inches. So I'm going to check if the 19 inches is correct. That is why this pattern is an updated pattern from my initial shoulder slant or shoulder dart measurements on my channel. Now if it is shorter than your normal armhole, go down by ½ inch from your chest line and connect. But if it is bigger, go up from your chest line by ½ inch and reconnect your armhole. You will have a armhole that is correct. Now for the back dart line, I'm going to be using 5 inches. I added 0.25 to what I have from the front dart line, and I connected it to the breast point. Then I'm going to be using ½ inch on both sides for our back darts. Now after that, then I will just connect my back neck From the 1 inch there, I connected it to the 1.5 inches, that's the shoulder line. Now guys, for this back, you can see where I place my tape. I'm measuring the length of the back because there's a difference between the front waist length and the back waist length for everybody. Some people you get 2 inches, some people you get 1.5, some people you get 1 inch. So from this 1 inch on the shoulder line, I marked it and I got the length there. Now the difference between this client's front and the back waist length is 1.5 inches. So 1 inch from the waistline upward, then the remaining ½ inch is the one we already minus from our shoulder measurement up here by 1 inch. I hope you understand. Then I put the round waist, I added that measurement, then I connected it to the breast point. Then on the side there, this is for half scale block. I went up by ½ inch on the side and I connected it to the 1 inch towards the center back. That is just to give your shape, like everything is going to be perfect on your body. You're not going to have any bulge or too much fabric on the sides. So if you want to do to your hip length, you can extend it from there upward, but this is just an half scale block. So let's continue. Now I'm using 1 inch on both sides for the front dart intake. Then on the breast point, I'm going to be going down by ½ inch. You can go down by 1 inch. It is almost still the same. And I'm going to use my curve ruler to connect it. I will also do the same thing for the other dart line. Then I'm going to use a straight ruler to now connect it to the waist length. Now this is going to be a corset. If it's a bustier, I will stop at this waist length, but for a corset it is actually looking short because I'm going to be putting bone in and all of that. So I'm just going to extend the lines later as the length of the waist later. So I put the waist measurement plus that of 2 inches. I replaced the dart. I also did the same thing on the under bust. So I'm going to be ruling them now. So we have our front ready. Now this is me sharing this pattern paper. At this point guys, if you are enjoying my tutorial up to this part and you've not subscribed to my channel, kindly hit the subscribe button. Like this video if you are enjoying it. So guys, I am just going to be closing the darts. Yeah, I'm going to be closing these darts. So I'm going to close from the breast point. I'm just forming a crease line on that dart, so it will give me easy access to close to the other darts. So I placed it on the other dart. Can you see it? So when I closed it up, I'm just going to be using my tape to secure it down. Yeah, then in order for the paper to lay flat, I will open the dart line. That's the nipple to nipple measurement line. Open it to the breast point and stop there. So when you do that, your paper will lay flat. So after that guys, for the back dart, yeah, remember the line we have in between when we divided it into two. Take 0.25 on both sides. Total, that will be ½ inch. Then from the middle line there, connect to the back dart line. Then I now went down by 3.5 inches. That is the back dart measurement. So I'm going to be extending the 0.25 to that 3.5, and I'll close it up later. So when I close it up, our half inch that we added is already taken out. Now guys, I'm going to be extending this from the neck width to the shoulder line with a straight ruler, so I can have a proper shoulder line. After that, I take my tracing wheel and I just use it to trace out this line, then I open it back. So whatever dotted line I'm seeing there, I'm going to be ruling it. Now I'm the only one that will see it because it is fainted, so you can do that. But if you don't have a tracing wheel, it is optional. Just close your shoulder dart and you cut it out with your scissors. So when you close like this, you're just going to use your scissors and you're just going to be cutting it off. It's just not for you to cut out where you're not supposed to cut. That's why we are doing that. Now after that, from the breast point, I went up by 3.5 inches. That 3.5 inches is where I want the corset to start from, and I'm also going to be tightening that 3.5 inches. Now I'm going to be using 2 inches in total. So from the midline there, I mark 1 inch on both sides. So we have 2 inches all together. Now I'm going to use my curve ruler and connect it to the breast points, just the way you see me doing like that. I will also connect the other line. Yep, so we've tightened the over bust. Now if you're not doing a corset, this is how you do also for a normal bustier. You tighten it. Then I'm ruling what I have on the first one. I also measure what I have on the second one. Then I indicate what measurement the first one gave me. If not, one will be longer than the other. Then I take my curve ruler and I just connect it into the armhole like that. Then for the other one to connect it, I mark 0.75 on that line. Now that line is me going up from my chest, from my breast point by 1.5 inches. That is the neck depth I am using. So I connected it that way. So we have our line. Now we're going to connect it now to the under bust to form our corset. So I connected the first one. Now for the second one, I'm just going to be marking 9 inches away from, starting from the line there, and I'm going to mark it. Now the 9 inches is not standard. You can come in from your chest line there, or from your breast point, come in by 1.5 inches, and you are going to connect it to the under bust. So like I said, that we are going to raise this side by 1/2 inch, just the way we raise the back, so that both sides seam can match each other. So that is what I did, and I connected it to the darts. So I'm going to share this paper into 2. Now let's focus on the back. For this back, on that 1 inch line that I raised up, I'm going to go in by 1/2 inch. That is just to tighten our back. Then I'm going to connect it to the across chest line of the back. Yeah, like I said, the difference between the front waist length of this client and our back is 1.5 inches. So we have 1/2 inch off here from this shoulder slants, and we have 1 inch downward. That is 1.5. If yours is 2 inches, it should not pass 2 inches. The body will focus on itself. So I just close the dart now, and I'm just going to be taking the neck width. I'm alterating that because I want the back to be straight. So I extended the dart line upward and I marked 0.25 on the chest line. I want to tighten that back. So, we tighten the front, you also tighten the back with half inch. That's share half inch into two, 0.25 on both sides. Then I'm going to connect from that line. But I think I changed it. I used 3.5 inches instead of 4 later for my neck width. Now I'm going to cut the armhole. Then I'll come back to the back neck width later. Now this is me cutting the armhole. I'm cutting into the 1 inch. We already minus half inch from there. Yeah, so I ended up using 3.5 inches from my neck depth. Then I'm just going to be rolling it, not to the back dart anymore. I'll just roll it. So I just go out from the dart line by some inches and I extended it to the 3.5 of the neck width. Now I'm going to be cutting the yoke for the back. So for the chest line, I am offing off that. Then I'm also cutting that line. So this is now our back yoke. So I'm using arrow to indicate that those parts are up. This other part is where we are joining together. Because if you don't do that, your pattern might look alike and you go and sew one side to the other side. So always label your pattern. Now I am offing that half inch and 1 inch. And I'm also opening the dart, taking off the dart. So we have our back ready. So I wrote center back and side back. Because this pattern is without sewing allowance, I'm going to be adding sewing allowance later. Now that is the back yoke. And I'm also cutting off the tightening we did on the zip side. Now this corset is with a zip, not with lacing. That is what she wanted. She said she doesn't want the stress of having to look for somebody to tie the rope on her back. Now I also did 3.5 inches for the neck width, because what you did for the front you have to do for the back, you have to do for the front. Then I'm going to start cutting now. So we have our front line. So let's cut the neckline now. After cutting the neckline, I'm going to close the dart so I can cut the shoulder. That's why I said tracing it might not really be important if you can close it like this and cut off your shoulder slant. So I cut the armhole. Now guys, you can see that this tutorial is well detailed. I took my time in detailing the drafting part. Now we are cutting out the shape. Then the side that we raised up by half, I also cut it out. After that, we are going to be cutting all the measurements now. So follow all your lines and you cut. The tightening, I cut it. The breast apart, that's the center of your corset, that is it. Then I'm cutting the corset, and I'm also going to remove the darts, and we'll cut our corset shape out. So guys, like if you've not subscribed to my channel, kindly do that. Like this video, share this video so that other people can get to watch. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Let me know. And we are going to be cutting the side now, so you also remove the darts. And we cut like that, and we also cut like that. So we have our side ready. Now for the front yoke, we are going to be closing it. Remember, we tightened it, so we have the tightening line there. Yeah, just where you see me touching. Now you're going to roll it to the shoulder slant line upward. Can you see? I've done this several times on my channel, so most of you should know how to do this. So you roll the line, then you're going to close from one line to the other line. So form a crease line on it, so it will be easy for you. Then fold it into, let it touch the second line that you tightened. After that, I'm going to use my tape to secure it down. Then I'm going to be, you can see we have a little bit of shortage on that part. I put in another paper and I gum it down just for me to have a smooth edge there. Then I took my curve ruler and I'm going to curve it. I'm going to roll the line. So this is me rolling it now. Now this part is called throwing. Throwing, you're throwing it whatever shortage you have. So we have a well curved yoke. So that's the front yoke ready. So guys, in order, because I normally close my shoulder, I don't like joining shoulders separately. All the yokes I've sewn on this channel for my clients, I used to close it. Now I'm going to be placing one yoke. Now I'm not placing it on each other because there is no shoulder allowance. If there were to be half inch shoulder allowance, I will place it on each other. So this one, just touched it together and I sellotape. So when I did that, you can see from the armhole, some parts entered inward on top of the front armhole. Now if I'm cutting this, I'm going to be sharing both on the two armhole. You will see that later because I'm going to be cutting it for you guys to see. Now I said this is a corset. It is actually short. If it will be a bustier, I will use the initial waist length I use because she has tummy, and that is why the waist length I use the normal waist length. But because the corset, I'm actually extending it by 1.5 inches. So we have all our patterns ready. Now we are done with the drafting part. Let us start sewing. So I've gone ahead to cut it on both the fashion fabric and the lining, and I added a 1/2 inch all round. Then towards the side seam, I added 2 inches. Now this is the cup. I use velvet for the bodies of the upper part, and I'm using the main damask for the cup. Now this is my cup. You can use a ready-made cup or you form a bra cup with your pattern. It is always better when you form a bra cup with your pattern. Most of you know how to do that because I have the tutorial on my channel on how to form your bra cup with your pattern. Now let's start sewing, guys. I decided to do sewing and drafting together in this video. Yeah, it is intentional. So you open the center front because it is cut on fold. Now you place the side front on it and we'll sew with 1/2 inch. So the back, I did the same thing. I placed it on each other because I notched everywhere where I'm going to be sewing, where will be the upper parts and the down part. I don't want to make mistakes, so I'm going to place them and I'm going to be sewing. So for the cup, I'm also going to take one side of the cup and one side front. I notch the breast point of the cup. That is where I'll start sewing from. Now I notched it and I pin. I also do the same thing for the lining. I added a half inch all around this cup. So I'm going to be sewing with the half inch sewing allowance. So that is the last cup. Now after pinning, let us go and sew. Now I'm going to sew off camera. So guys, after sewing, this is how everything is. I'm gonna head to iron them, and we're going to be joining the cup to the front part now. So this is the cup. We have both the lining and the fashion fabric ready. So I'll take our cup and I'm just going to be using my gum to just gum it together. After gumming, you can see we have the half inch. Now that half inch is for joining. So we are going to be joining it now. Now before I join, this is what I normally do. For this part to have easy access to accommodate the cup, because sometimes you might feel the cup is bigger. I normally notch it round. Then you're going to place the cup, the part that is going towards the center front, you're going to know. Now I went ahead to pin everything round. So I pinned all the strategic points round so that when I'm sewing, everything can fit inward. Now that notch I did is going to give the down parts easy access to accommodate the cup. So I'm going to do that for the fashion fabric as well. So I opened it up. I also notched. I notched all around. Then I fixed the cup on it. So we have our cup and I'm going to be sewing. So this is it guys. After sewing, you can see the cup is cupping. So for the yoke, I folded this mesh into two because I like doubling my yoke. So like I said, I replaced that shortage I have. I share it on both sides. Then I added half inch to all this pattern. But for the neck part, I added 0.25 because even after sewing, I'm going to be trimming that neck very close to the seam. So this is me cutting, then cutting the yoke and all of that. So after cutting, we are going to open the yoke. So we have the two together. We're going to be turning the neckline, then you fold it, you turn it, and just use your stitch to secure all that down. So guys, this is the yoke. I've turned the neckline. Now let's attach it to the main bodies. So I went ahead to take the front piece and I'm going to be pinning. So I'll pin the yoke down to the bodies. So I'll also pin to the front, to the back piece also. So we have the zip side and we have the side seam. So I place it right side to right side and I'm going to start wherever the yoke stops on the pattern is where I'll pin to. And then for the lining is where all the boning will be. So I mark the center front. Now these are all my style lines. Now from the center front, I mark 2.5 inches from the center front. After that, I'm going to mark in 2.5 inches on the other side. Then I will also mark. So we have those lines ready. Now from the 2.5 inches I mark, I'm going to be going out also by 2.5 inches. Even though it is close to the dart line, I don't mind. I'm going to be putting boning on everything there. So I went ahead to also roll the line. Now, towards the cup side, I mark 1 inch away from that part. And I'm just going to be rolling it down. I'm going to do that on the other line, 1 inch. Then I'll measure what I have left from there. I ended up doing 2.5 inches as well. Then I connected it. So I'm going to be taking our regional boning. Now, before that, I mark half inches away from all the upper parts. Then towards the down parts, I mark 0.75. So I'm going to be cutting the regional boning, and I'm going to iron before I sew. I like ironing my boning before I sew it. I've gone ahead to, or I'm cutting everything. So we'll finish cutting the front. We'll be cutting the back, as in putting our style lines for the back. So I mark 2.5 inches also from the dart line. Of the back. Yep. And I roll it. That will be the first star line for the back. I also did the same thing for the other side. So that's the second star line on the dart line. And I also mark another one. So we're going to have 3 boning on each piece of the back. Then I would mark ½ inch away from the starting line and 0.5 away from the starting line. Now I've gone ahead to sew this mesh on it, and I've also sewn all the boning. I used masking tape to just secure the edges of the boning. Then the next thing to do is to fix our lining, attach it to the main fabric. So I placed it together, and I'm going to be pinning all the way to where the yoke stops. Yeah, that's where our armhole is. If it were to be a tube, you sew it round to the edge, but it is not a tube, it has a sleeve. Now, if I'm going to sew, I'm going to be using my hemi gum. I'll place it and I will sew it together so that when I iron, the cup side is going to be very neat. Your lining will not be pulling out. Now I did the same thing for the back. I placed it. Now this back does not really need any gum. It's just that front. Then after that, I'm going to be sewing all the sides together. So let me go and sew. This is it, guys. I've joined the sides together and the neckline, and I've also ironed it. So you can see our cup is copying. It is fine. Now the next thing we are going to be doing is we are going to take the down part, that is the skirt part. Now you all know how to sew a skirt. It is not all the time I'll be showing how to sew a skirt on this channel. This video is almost 1 hour video. So go ahead and turn your lining with your skirts, and after turning, you pull everything out from the upper part. Then I put my sewing allowance all around it. So for the back as well, we have the zip side. I've gone ahead to sew to sew it. Then I'm going to be putting the allowance on this upper part. It was 2 inches I added. When I sew with 0.25 inward, I have 0.75 left for my sewing allowance. I did the same thing for the back. Guys, at this junction, I'm actually screaming on top of my voice so you guys can hear me. So I opened the zip side of the skirt parts, and before we attach it, remember the pattern has a velvet on the skirt part. Now for the client, I asked her where she wants the side to get to. She said 12 inches on one side, then 5 inches on the other side. So I'm going to be placing the remaining velvet. I have just a small draping is going to come on this other 5 inches side. So I'm just going to place it, then trim off the remaining velvet. So in a slant form, just the way you see like this, I'm going to be using my stitch to secure it down. After doing that, I'll place it on the front piece and I'm going to be sewing. So guys, we've sewn it together, the side seam and everything. It is looking all very neat and beautiful. Can you see it? So this is it, and this is the back part. I'm going to be fixing the zip, and I'm gonna have to open the slit also. I did 22 inches for the slit. So this is the zip I'll be using to fix this, and I'm going to be putting, the mesh is just a basic sleeve. This is the applique I'll be using to just design the neck. So guys, thank you guys for watching this tutorial. I'll see you all in my next one. Bye.